Welcome to the Old Fashioned Three. They've been around basketball from the Big Dipper to the Greek Freak, from Russell Celtics to Curry's Warriors, from Peach Baskets to Paolo Banchero. Here are Whitey Gleason, Phantom, and Jerry Reynolds.
Yes, that was that cat.
I got to start with a question, if I may. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Three, Jerry. This Jerry Reynolds right here, and we got
this
Dooley
guy
Jerry's
over
here. I mean, as you said, that's a guy. He's got it going on.
Well, he's a good-looking man, is what he is.
Yeah. I noticed the. Can we see that, Stones? Can you see the ring? Yeah. What ring is that, sir?
Actually, that is that one is West Georgia College Hall of Fame. They put me in there back in the early 90s.
It looks like a really nice.
It is a
must
really
be a nice Hall
ring.
of Fame. Yeah,
not very nice Hall of Fame. Yeah,
West
it's
Georgia. Yeah,
very, very, very expensive, nice ring. They did it well for me.
Yeah,
and, I appreciate that.
That's not this ring.
No, this is an Indiana high school or Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame ring.
Wow.
Which
the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, there must be some pretty heavy cats in there.
Not bad.
Well, Bird's in there, Oscar's in there, John Wooden's in there.
Jerry
Reynolds.
You don't really need to say too much more than that. That pretty much takes care of it.
Hey, the way I've always looked at it is like clearly I don't belong in that upper echelon. But the way I look at it, I went through the whole list, and there's some guys in there I've done better than they have.
There you go. There you go.
I ain't the bottom of the damn barrel.
So you belong in the building.
I belong in the building.
You belong in the building, and that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
You got the ring and everything.
And you probably have a Monarchs championship ring as well, I'm thinking?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know, the Maloofs, well, they it's not like an NBA ring, but it's worth probably $10,000.
Okay, all right.
You know, they did well by that, and so I always appreciated that.
Yeah. I don't know
It's a
about you,
nice
Phantom.
ring.
I have a St. Patrick's Basketball Clinic Most Improved Player Award somewhere. So
Yeah. I
not
didn't
the
think
same
you
as
deserved it. I remember the camp.
It was
You really
controversial.
didn't deserve it. There was another kid, but
Yeah, it was controversial.
yeah, it was
no question.
controversy. I have no
Yeah.
rings. No, I got nothing.
Phantom won a high school baseball MVP award, and
Yes,
the
I
trophy
did.
was made by Metal Shop.
Yes, it
just
was,
this
and it
weird
looked like
looking-
it, and
Yeah.
it resembled me in a way. Yeah, it had a bat, which I think I lost right away, and then it was a figure on it, and it was
Yeah.
not really a baseball player, but hey, I
Close
appreciate
enough.
it. Yeah,
Close enough.
You know, I deserved the award,
yeah.
so I was the best player. So there you go.
It's the award and the thought that
Yeah.
counts. You earned it.
Well,
you were the best.
I was the second best. They took the best guy and put him up on varsity.
Oh, okay.
So then I won the award.
Then you won the award.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's okay.
yeah, that's okay.
Everybody remembers that.
Second best last night in Milwaukee. Bucks 126, Kings 113. And Coach Mike Brown says, this was the first time where the other team has dictated everything throughout the course of the game. But the Kings were in that thing. Fourth quarter, they were hanging in there against an excellent team.
They sure were. I mean, it's a really fun game to watch, and I thought the performances of, certainly Sabonis was terrific. Harrison, Herter was solid. The rookie is getting better all the time. But, when you got Antetokounmpo and you got Drew Holiday, and certainly Drew Holiday was maybe even more
really
valuable
good.
than
Tremendous.
Antetokounmpo. So every time I think of Drew Holiday, I always think of the genius that trust the process. When they thought they were doing something right. Now we're going to build to the draft, and so you trade a young Drew Holiday who'd made the NBA All-Star team in the East, and for the rights to Nerlens Noel.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
You don't like that guy. You mentioned him a lot, and you really don't like him.
I mean, it's easy to win 15 games a year for 5 years.
yeah, it's easy. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question that Brian Scalabrine asked me once. What is the greatest strength of Drew Holiday? What is most impressive about him? I said strength. I don't know. There's a lot to choose from.
Well, he's very strong. That is true. I think he's a true two-way player at a position when you don't find many of them. I mean, he can affect the game defensively as well as offensively,
And he's willing to do that.
and willing to do that. Yes, absolutely a true winner, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is a leader. I think that's his biggest strength. Is he's a guy on the floor that other guys can look to, and he'll take things under control and he'll run the show.
Yeah. Kind of the way you run things here, right?
A lot of the way, yeah.
Unselfish.
I don't think he gets as much backlash as I do.
No,
but I mean, he's earned that.
Yeah,
okay,
he
I'm
has.
still making my mark in the
Yeah.
business.
Well, he doesn't. go around wearing like a UCLA shooting shirt and a Potter's cap?
How long do you think it's going to take you to make your mark? I mean, you're
Well, I mean, time's getting slow, Jerry. I mean, I hope to find myself before I get to your age. That's all I can say.
Wow. All right. Phantom, what stood out to you about the Kings' defeat last night?
What stood out is
Why are the Bucks wearing blue? I was asking my wife.
That's not okay. I'm sure that was a great conversation.
She
too.
said they're supposed to be wearing
what
green.
What sticks out is you look at the stats and you look at the the rebounding margin, and the Kings' assist total was way down.
Good point.
And Monk came off the bench. He had 20, but not very efficient. Fox not efficient again. And you wonder, how were they that close? How did they stay this close to be within 1 point late? And so they did a lot of things right, even though those things stand out on the score sheet. And again, they went small, and the Bucks took advantage of it, and the rebounding really told the story.
Yeah, we mentioned a couple days ago that the Kings were number 2 in defensive rebounding. I don't know that they still are after that game.
That probably would hurt the stats a little bit, yeah.
I thought, Jared, to my untrained eye, one of the things that happened is the Kings fell into a Milwaukee trap. Milwaukee, especially Fox. Milwaukee's really good at forcing teams, and they've been this way for years. They get you to take shots that they want you to take. And sure, you may feel like, hey, I got an open shot. They are shots that the Bucks want you to take, and I thought the Bucks were effective in that regard defensively last night. I thought maybe Fox was one that they really got caught up in that.
I think Mike Budenholzer is obviously an outstanding coach, and they're a good defensive team, and so they knew it was very important for them to win was to really control Fox, and I thought they did a nice job of it. And I thought how they kind of did it is that De'Aaron generally can get to the basket a lot and finish a lot at the basket. Well, he knew as well as we knew, and they knew, that wasn't going to happen with the Antetokounmpo and Lopez.
Exactly.
And so they also said to themselves, we're going to take that away, so he'll settle for the 15-foot pull-up, and we're going to challenge that.
Yep.
And they did, and they made those shots tougher.
Yeah.
And I think that was because, we're used to seeing Fox just due to his quickness with the defense is scared to death of him. They'll give him the 15-footer, and the Bucks didn't.
Yeah. One of the things I think about watching games, Phantom, is I look at the other coaches and I say, I wonder which one of those I could take one-on-one. And I used to think I could take Budenholzer. But
you mean
basketball-wise
basketball-wise or physical-wise?
No, basketball-wise.
Because you're not an imposing physical figure.
I'm talking about basketball.
Okay.
Yeah. But Budenholzer, turns out he was a really good player. Most of those guys can play. So who's
I think I could have taken either of the Van Gundys.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
But
especially
in
my prime.
Coaching, but okay.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know.
Give me Mark Daigneault of OKC. I think I like
you
my
can have
chances.
Mark Daigneault of OKC. Okay. I know I couldn't take Darvin Ham. I'm pretty sure I couldn't.
Pretty
do that.
sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could.
He'd probably keep me away from the hoop.
Yeah.
Probably very physical. Yeah. But I think I'm going to go back and stay back when I was in my. I'm going to take the Van Gundys.
Oh yeah.
Or Red Auerbach when I was in my
Red,
prime.
Yeah.
Although Red, I think probably played dirty.
I bet he did.
Yeah, I think he probably jabbed you underneath.
I don't think there's any doubt he'd play dirty.
Yeah, like John Stockton or somebody.
Yeah. Mike Brown says this is the first time, as I mentioned, that the other team really dictated things. But wasn't it all about Phantom defensively? The Kings just defensively, they've made strides. But last night, they just couldn't get it done at that
Well,
end.
they made strides, and then they go out and give up 125 points. Absolutely. But I think basically they were going up against a team with two guys, as you mentioned, Lopez and Antetokounmpo. With the rim protectors, they dominated in there. They got a bunch of second-chance points, and that was the difference there.
Yeah.
I mean, you give up 125 points, but as we said on several occasions already, Milwaukee's pretty good. And I think what we saw last night in the league is that the two best teams showed that they are the two best teams with Boston and Milwaukee.
Yeah, the two best teams are in the East right now. I mean, that's all there is to that. And for those of us that have for years talked about how much better the West is than the East, you can kind of be quiet about that now.
The West, I don't even think has a favorite now.
I don't think they do either. No,
who's the number one team in the West right now?
The Pelicans are number one in the West, over a half game over the Suns, and yeah, I like the Pelicans. They have a lot of good guys, but I don't think they're the best team. But maybe they are.
Yeah, they're pretty solid defensively too. Yeah. Who do they play their next two games? Do you know? The Pelicans next two games
against
they play the Suns. Both.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Two games. Now, is that both in one place, or is that a home situation?
I will have to get back to you on
I hope
that.
I think it's both. I think they did mention. I think it is both in one place because it wouldn't make sense to do Phoenix, New Orleans, It's like a Steve Miller, Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma.
Philadelphia, Atlanta, L.A.
Exactly. Who
Northern
booked that tour?
California.
Oh, yeah. Where the girls are warm. But yeah.
When
so
did you first tell that joke? Because I've used it many times.
I think that was a
Yeah.
very long time ago.
Yeah.
But thank you for giving
Yeah.
me the ownership of it.
Of course.
Yes,
of course.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Pelicans are number 1 in the West. And I would never say this like.
Not really. No.
Are the
Okay,
Kings
hold
like?
on.
Is there a little like market correction that's due here on this road trip? They've been playing so well; they're definitely improved. This is a tough 6-game trip. Are we going to see reality rear its head a little bit here with the Kings on this trip?
Well, I think sure. I mean, of course, Cleveland tonight.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Or tomorrow night. I
Yeah.
mean, really maybe the third best team in the West or in the East, and right now, and I think they'll stay there. And here again, I think they're better than anybody in the West. When you really
That's crazy the way it swung around like that. It really
so,
is.
So it's going to be a tough game. Now, I've always said if the Kings could somehow get 2 wins out of the 6
Yes, you
on
did
the
say
road,
that, yeah.
that's terrific. They'll come back still over 500. And so to all those people who assumed after about 30 games the Kings would be above 500, raise your hands, and we'll see no hands raised.
No. No
But-
real ones, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people might put up there, no. you
Yeah,
weren't.
yeah,
No, I got the receipts here. No.
Yeah,
No. You were 12 and 18, buddy. Okay,
I
yeah.
remember when we talked during the summer about that trade, and I just speak for myself. I said, Donovan Mitchell's good, but he's not as good as they need him to be. He's been incredible, right?
He really has.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm the same way. I wasn't. I mean, I knew he'd be good.
Sure.
Because he's been always good, and I thought he's kind of been a high volume scorer of his career.
Yeah.
Now so far, he's been a highly productive, big
Efficient.
scorer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So I think he and Garland are. Well, I think that's the best guard line in the league. You can't.
That's
find
saying a lot right now.
That's
I mean,
saying a lot.
that's
But
saying
I
a
don't
lot.
know. And that's kind of what worries me because Garland was coming off injury when he played early when the Kings beat
bad
him,
eye, huh?
and
Yeah.
he was totally ineffective. And so he'll want to kind of have something to say.
Yeah, the
but
Jazz-
that's a heck of a. But Donovan Mitchell really has taken them up a notch, I think.
Yeah, and the Jazz they did well in both those trades, trading Gobert out, trading Mitchell out, and then last night a big win for them, a stunning
Yes.
loss for the Warriors. The final was 124 to 123, and it was one of those, it happens in sports, sometimes happens in basketball. You watch the game because the Warriors have the ball, 6 seconds left, and they're up 1.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, they just lost.
Yeah.
that
How did they
game.
lose? Yeah, they were
Wow.
4 points up. Yeah, with 6 seconds.
What
to go.
did Jerry always say, Phantom? He said,
What?
you've got to protect
The pumpkin. Yes.
And the Warriors did not do that last night.
They sure didn't. They sure didn't. And Klay Thompson, one of the smartest defenders probably in years, made a bonehead play.
Yeah.
I always say he played the Mike Bibby defense, to where you're not protecting the basket and you're not protecting the shooter.
really not doing anything.
No man's land. Yeah.
You're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just in a perfect position to get to nobody. And it's hard to do.
Yeah, he left Beasley, Phantom, after a timeout, and the
You don't
Warriors
need
are
Beasley.
instructed, don't give up any threes. So he's guarding Beasley, and then who was it, drove the lane, and Klay just kind of turns like, I guess he's going to shoot a layup. Oh, he's throwing it to the guy
Yeah.
that just left, and he made a 3.
That was an amazing play because the guy driving the lane had the layup, and usually in those situations they go get the quick 2 and then foul or whatever.
Well,
and it changes the entire math when you get
Yes.
the 3. And of course, he had to hit the 3, which was not an easy 3, but that decision changed the entire setup of that last play
Yeah.
where they lost the ball. And the thing about Klay Thompson, just looking at the stats, with Wiggins.
I am
and
right here, 8 for
Wiggins,
25,
Yeah,
Phantom.
Wiggins and Green and Curry not there, then Klay, okay, you're the man now. And he came up, I think, 22 points, but 8 for 25. And that's got to be, I know we're waiting for Klay to come back, and we all want him to come back, everybody in basketball, but that's a little bit of a misstep right there as far as 8 for 25 when you're going to be the guy. And leaving that guy that
he's angry.
that I am angry. I'm watching that. And the other thing is I've seen that play at the end of the game. You've seen that play. We've seen that play a million times. I would say 80% of the time, the guy who loses the ball gets hacked I would say over the year. I don't
Yeah.
know that he was last night. I'm just saying.
I think he was.
I'd say 80% of the time, if you watch it, the guy and usually the guy who loses the ball just stands there because someone just took his arm off and he doesn't know what happened. But give Utah credit, and the guy made a great pass on the way down to get the dunk too, with 1.4 left. So a lot of exchange here. But the thing I take out of that is the fact that Klay Thompson was the man last night, and he really didn't get it done.
Mm-hmm. You know that pass you're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a time not that long ago in basketball, a player would never make that pass, right? If you had a layup, you would never throw it out to a three-point shooter. That just wasn't done. And now,
exactly.
And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just that you can't help but notice, wow, there was a time when guys didn't make that play.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm still one of those guys that when that play was happening, I was getting, what are you?
Yeah, take the two.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not take an 80% shot for a 40% shot.
Right.
But it's also true in that moment, that was the play to make maybe because that was your one chance to win.
Yep.
Yeah, it just changes
but I don't
all
know
the
if
numbers.
I don't know if he thought all that, but
Yeah.
no, it's that's part of what's totally different about the game, and that's I always say, and that's why too, as a fan, your team's 15 points ahead or 15 points behind, don't get too concerned.
You have a 3-point shot down.
3-point shot.
Get concerned. I mean, it is
You
15
can be
points,
concerned.
but don't get overly concerned.
Yeah, that's a 2-minute. That can be a 2-minute run.
Hit about 3 in a row. Yeah, you're looking good.
Yeah. To your point, Phantom, I think Poole was fouled on that play, and he, I guess, thought so too. But also earlier, you go back to when Kuminga got the rebound and he was fouled by Jordan. I think Jordan Clarkson was fouled on that shot. So it was one of those things where, the game, they're going to let him play.
Right.
I think. So I think that went both ways. But I know Jerry has, we're going to debut Reynolds Rap today.
We are.
We're not doing it right now, but just you have some things to say about the officiating, don't you? That's a little.
Well, I do. I mean, I think it's an impossible job, first of all. And the more you see slow motion of plays that, like the broadcasting various ones, a terrible call, blah, blah, blah. Then they do, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Well,
that's all right.
We should just do it now because we're talking about it. Go ahead. Yeah, and then we'll discuss. This is the debut of Reynolds Rap, and Jerry is. I hear you're not overly pleased with the way players are reacting to the officiating.
I think it's a terrible circumstance in the league today. And for those of you that are older than 25 years old, you'll remember the game in the 80s and 90s. And certainly players complained, but all you have to do is go back and look at the game. Not even a tenth of what it is today. And really, not Adam Silver, if you're watching, I know you're not, but you should be.
Yeah.
You got to get a handle on this. This is hurting the game. It's hurting the game because every fan base, every fan, every broadcast team, everybody thinks they're getting screwed. And the officials aren't showing enough respect, and it makes them harder to do an impossible job, which it is. And it serves no purpose. The original purpose was that officials should explain the call to the player. Well, there's no explaining going on. There's one side bitching at the other. And that's not and officials aren't bitching at the players. They're getting bitched at on every call. Serves no purpose. Calls aren't changed. Get control of it. If I was running a player association, which I probably should be.
Should be.
That's true.
I would get on top of this and say, guys, you're hurting the product.
Yeah.
You're hurting your own value in the sports market. So stop this stuff. We don't need explanations on every call. The call stands. So let it call, or, we have a vehicle. If it's a real terrible one, we can question it.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that in a way. It's not just complaining about every call. It's almost complaining about every non-call. How many times does a guy score and then coming back?
And he spends the whole time yelling at the referee on the way back.
Yes.
If he goes back to play defense.
What you said about the officials supposedly explaining things to the players, that's kind of cool in theory. It reminds me, Phantom, of in baseball, sometimes a guy will swing and miss will turn the umpire was out a strike.
Yeah.
And the guy says, okay, thanks. Right?
Yeah.
So there's,
it's
that makes
borderline
sense.
pitch. I
but
swung
that's just
at it.
not what's going on. And you touched on something else that's really interesting to me. I think that local broadcasters have a role in this because, if you have League Pass, you watch all the local broadcasters from Quinn Buckner to whomever, and they complain about almost every call.
Well, sure, they're all it's all the same, and and then it just makes it worse because every fan base feels their team is getting screwed.
Right.
I know, just reading the King's Herald post, which I do a podcast on there, and somebody, again, eight versus 5, 8 versus 5. It's like, no, sometimes actually it isn't.
Right.
All
by
the
the way,
referees are wearing Lakers shirts. Oh, man.
no, if you really watched the game closely, you'd realize that no, the reason the other team went to the line more is they were fouled more.
Yes.
Or the
More
reason you
aggressive.
didn't go to the line is, they're talking about a lot of contact, no call. Well, there was no call because there wasn't a foul.
Yeah.
That's why it wasn't called.
Two things. It has to be one or the other, maybe some combination. If the officiating is that bad, if it is, then the league needs to do something about it right away. If it's not, then to me the biggest problem is the credibility of the officials. If they don't have any credibility, then something really important is lost. Then everything seems, and the NBA's had issues with officials and
Right,
people wondering
absolutely.
about the credibility of the officials. That's a really potentially dangerous problem for the league.
First of all, great episode of Reynolds Wrap. Well done. We didn't really put a bow on that, but great
Yeah,
job.
thank you.
And secondly, there's two things. You were talking about how, fans are watching. It's going to put people off your product if everybody's complaining all the time. If the players aren't playing, that's the one thing that's going to put fans off. And when they are playing, if they're complaining about stuff the whole time, then that's the other thing. So those two factors, you have basically, sports is a TV show. You got a TV show out there. If people are watching your TV show and the stars aren't there, or the people that are on there are just acting like they don't want to be there, it really isn't a pleasant watch. And I think they have to, like you say, the league has to take a look at this and has to kind of put a better show together.
Well, they do, and to me, that's part of they're talking about getting a huge new TV deal at some point. Well, the ratings aren't up, so how do you figure that? I can understand the demand for sports product,
Absolutely, yeah.
and all that, but at some point, you really need to find a way to make your product more entertaining, not less.
Yeah.
And when you go back to the Jordan years where they were playing in front of 38 million people in the NBA Finals as opposed to 15 million recently, well, you don't have to be a math major to figure out. Now, see, 38's more than 15.
Check that for you.
Yeah.
Stones, can you check that?
Yeah, I don't want to take his word for it, but you're pretty reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of reasons for that, of course, but still, it's like if I'm concerned about, and I want more money, and the players do, and the league does, and all that, I see no problem with that. Well, then let's work to find out how we can make our product a little more entertaining again.
Yes. I will say this. I applaud the officials for the increase we've seen lately in travel,
yes,
right?
yes,
Because it's just, all right, they're playing basketball.
Right.
And I know some players complain, well, you better call it consistently then. Well, just don't travel, and you don't have to worry about whether someone else is getting called for it or not.
When Stones and I
Don't
were-
pick up your pivot foot, and you don't have to worry about it.
Well, when players talk about that, we want it just called consistent. We all
Yeah,
say that.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
said it.
yeah.
No, what you're saying, when they say that, the coaches or players,
they want it called on the other guy.
We want it called on him. That's what we want.
Yes. Stones and I doing American River College games. There was one of them we did.
Wow.
One of them we did, and
Name
there was
dropper.
one ref there who called like 7 traveling violations. And so he came back and he did the next game that we were doing. He was also doing. Oh, there's Mr. Traveling Ref. I said because I'm a cheeky bastard. And he goes, hey, it's a POE. It's a point of emphasis. They give us videos and they tell us and send out memos, and I'm sure that's what they did on that level too. They go, this is what we want to do, and it looks like they are watching the videos and they're reading the memos and they're going out and making the calls. Now, if they can just get our call right, the one where he gets held,
and they're calling it
they're
once
calling
in a
a
while.
little
Yes,
bit, but
yes.
calling a little bit.
Little
but
bit.
That's an incredible advantage you're getting. But hey, baby steps.
Baby
I'm all
steps.
for
Yeah.
that. That's great.
Yeah.
And too, on the point of emphasis stuff, I mean, not only are the officials told that, teamsters told that,
They don't
coaches
listen.
are told that.
You don't think those
the
guys don't listen.
officials come back before the year starts and they go through it with teams. So
Mm-hmm.
to act like it's just sprung on them,
Yeah.
it's like
Hey,
no.
wait, you never said this.
Yeah, it's like we had a clinic with you guys.
Yeah, but I wasn't really paying
And they're
attention.
even calling it, I've seen it called on Steph. Like,
See,
Steph
now
Curry
again,
gets
then you
called
stop
for
the
it.
game, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's great because it's not just, old man, you get off my lawn. It's basketball. At some point, something
Yeah.
really is lost if you're allowing the greatest players in the world to, they don't need to follow the rules. Something's lost there.
They're getting an unfair advantage.
Yes,
I mean,
thank you.
that's what we
Better
said about
said,
our
yeah.
call. It's like you can't stop a point guard if he can do that
Yeah, if he
hesitation.
can do
You
that.
can't stop him. So don't say, hey, you got to play better defense out on the perimeter. Well, the guy's carrying the ball and deciding he wants to go somewhere. There was a video the other day on Twitter with John Morant, like 2 minutes of John Morant just doing incredible stuff with the ball. And you're like, none of that is legal. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Tim Hardaway and Allen Iverson. I mean, if they could have done that, but they couldn't. I mean, they got by with a lot
they'd
of
be in the
stuff.
Hall of Fame if they could have done that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, it is important. Something really essential to making it all work is lost if we're not calling the rules properly, and if everything the officials do, they just get berated by everyone.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, and then I always go back to it. I mean, it's an impossible game to call.
Yes.
So you know that 10 to 15 calls are going to be missed during the course of a game, and it's probably going to even out pretty close. Now, like I say, in Game 6 of a certain year, there's happened to be 15, 20 missed calls, and they all went a certain way.
yes.
Now
that was 20 years ago.
But
and
then
it won't happen again.
I'll
Yeah.
let that slide
It's
for
20
now.
years ago, Jared.
But
Yeah, what are you going to do?
See,
But
now
my-
with that, but in my opinion, a lot of people around here in Sacramento thought, they just wanted the Lakers to win. I think if there was anything to that, and I don't doubt that there could have been, it wasn't so much we want the Lakers to win. It was just we want there to be another game,
Yeah.
right? Because that was
Game
Game
7.
6.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
TV ratings at that time were far more important.
Yes.
And
yeah.
that series was getting tremendous
Yeah,
ratings.
and the
amazing.
Kings
And
were
they
as
as-
highly rated as the Lakers. for the
Yeah, and
most
I think
part.
most people, officials included, thought, well, it'd be a Game 7 in Sacramento and they'll
yeah.
win.
Yeah.
And
Which
they-
they should have.
Which they should have.
Yeah.
And
And it wasn't the referee's fault that they did.
And you
Yeah.
couldn't blame the refs
In
on
that
that
game,
one.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
a couple of air balls and Shaq making free throws, which
Right.
that had to be an act of God there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The refs had to
yeah.
be in on that somehow.
So,
yeah.
I know revisionist history, but to me that wasn't a matter of the NBA wanted the big market team to win. The NBA, if anything, they just wanted another game, right?
No, at the time I remember saying, I just don't think the referees are very good. That's what my take was. I know it's not.
was that Bob
it's
Delaney
not-
and Bavetta?
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, see, that's
Yeah.
what always scared me because I thought those guys were great.
Yeah.
And I've over the years, and I just have to come to the conclusion that these three outstanding officials had the worst quarters
That
in
can
their
happen,
entire history.
Yeah.
At
the same time.
in the biggest game.
Well, there's teams missed 27 threes in a row at some time, so that can
Yeah,
happen on the
I-
referee. Yeah, that can
I
happen on
guess
the
it-
referee
We'll
level
go.
too. Yeah.
We'll go with
Let's
that.
go with that.
Let's
They were
go
all
with
1
that.
for 15 from the floor
It
at the
happens.
same time.
Huh. Yeah. You mentioned Ja. What about Memphis now as far as the best teams in the West? We mentioned the Pelicans are number 1. Phoenix has been
Yeah.
up there, but obviously they have issues. The Warriors are nowhere near what they were hoping to be. Desmond Bane's out for
That's
now.
that's why I
extended period.
don't put them in that category. And I know they play great without their best guy. They showed it last year. Memphis somehow makes do, but the fact that Desmond Bane is out for more than he was going to be out for, I think, puts them a little bit below some of the other teams right now in the West.
Yeah, and to me also there's every reason to think that if it's a back injury, it's not like you're rested 3 weeks. Okay,
Yeah,
he's
it's not-
fine.
yeah,
I hope
exactly.
he is, but good luck.
Well, I do think probably the Grizzlies. I think are better than the Pelicans when they're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's that. But I think the best team in the West, and I know they got beat last night, is still Denver
Yeah.
because I think they've played by far the most road games. Although they got beat at home by Dallas, who's making a little bit of a run.
little
But
run there,
But I
yeah.
think in a really convoluted West, I really say today in my mind is Denver's the best team. In a 7-game series, I think they'd be the hardest to beat today.
Mm-hmm. Just because of what they're getting now on the perimeter defensively, and Jamal Murray back, and
Jamal Murray back,
Yeah.
Porter back more or less, and then of course Jokic is.
Should the Kings have drafted him?
Who?
Porter?
Well, I know Vlade.
They thought about it, right?
They
were
sure
really-
did.
Yeah.
I think if he'd been healthy, my understanding from Vlade, instead of drafting Bagley, they would have drafted Michael Porter Jr. if they thought he was healthy. So that would have been certainly a
Which
better.
he wasn't at the time.
Which he
Well,
wasn't,
fairness,
and who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
he's had all kinds of issues, and so I don't. Anyway,
Yeah,
he didn't.
Yeah. You
I remember before the draft. I mean, we had him. I had him number 2 on my draft board. And I was filling in for you with Crides, And then right before the draft, he got another injury. He got a back injury like a week before, and then he went plummeting down. But had he not gotten that back injury, I think he would have been top 2 or top 3 as far as the draft is concerned. He was amazing. He still is an amazing player when you get to see him when he's moving around well, because his range is incredible.
Yeah.
He's still an amazing guy. And it's too bad, kind of a Brandon Roy situation maybe, that he just never is able to play to his capabilities.
No, I agree. I mean, when he's healthy, he's kind of a little more athletic version of Carmelo Anthony, where he can just jump up over people and shoot it in. But it's injuries are injuries.
That's
and,
right.
And
yeah.
I mean, back injuries that going to be hard to see that going. How it's going to be able to play 70, 75 games a year for a long time. That's for sure.
I just saw something at NBA.com about now that LeBron is zeroing in on Kareem's all-time record. It was a story. I didn't read the story. I saw the headlines like, "What happened to Kareem's hook shot was the greatest shot in basketball." So I've been thinking about, well, who could shoot that shot now? And the reason I bring this up now is if Jokic, and he doesn't need it, he's phenomenal. But I could see if Jokic learned a true hook. I mean, I could see him. I could see, I don't know, maybe Embiid if they don't need it necessarily now, but aren't those guys that could really benefit if they really had the true Kareem-esque?
I think the guy that could really benefit would be DeAndre Ayton.
That's my guy.
Because he doesn't have
Yeah.
the range on his shot like Embiid and Jokic do and all that. And Kareem didn't really. I think he could have developed about anything he wanted to,
exactly.
including a 3-point shot. But that was the unstoppable shot. But I think for a guy like Ayton, a 7-footer, very athletic, get in there and really have the extension on the hook, I think that would really put him at a different level. But
How come? What happened to the hook shot, Phantom?
What happened? Nobody. Well, first of all, it doesn't give you enough points anymore. So why should I go learn that if I can go out 10 more feet and shoot and make an extra point? So I think that's taken a lot of the incentive off. And plus,
Well, I think you're right. The whole thing now with the analytics is 3 or in the key,
Yeah,
and the hook
yeah,
shot's like,
exactly.
nope,
Yeah.
unless
And
you're going to shoot a 3.
And to Jerry's point, I just don't think people realize it's not that easy.
no,
Kareem was Kareem. So I mean, it's not like, oh yeah, I'll just go develop the sky hook, which I mean, I think it's the one he broke the all-time scoring record. Whatever. I mean, he's shooting like 15-foot baseline hook shots. That's a very difficult
Very
shot.
difficult.
It's an
Yeah.
incredibly difficult shot. So I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he was as far as the shot's concerned. But I mean, I could see, like you say, an Ayton. I think a Porzingis could have made it part of his game as well, because I mean, he has the athleticism maybe that Ayton doesn't have to make that shot. But I think that it doesn't give you enough points, and it's really hard to do.
Everybody shoots the half hook now. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, the half.
Yeah.
The
And
half
nobody
hook,
does it
which
all the
is-
time.
which is a lot simpler. And then I think the other point to this is, in my mind, is that first of all, nobody wants to be a back to the basket player. They're growing up. Even bigs grow up they don't want to be back to the
You know who's an
basket players.
example of that, in my opinion, is Al Jefferson, who was a pretty good player, and then it got to a point where like he's just useless.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, he was a terrific post guy.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's a different game, and for years the smaller players were discriminated against with the way the rules were. Now it's in a
they've
way
got the
it's a
three-point
big.
shot, yeah.
It's the true post players really don't have the value they once had. So is it better? I don't know. I kind of overall I like the game better because I'll go back to square one. Is that for the most part you have to be a basketball player to be on the floor. It used to be you could be a very limited, just be a big person,
a specialist. Yeah.
and you got to start and play.
Yeah, I think we see hook shots now a lot from guards on the drive. We just don't call it a hook shot,
Right.
But guys
Just
are better
a
than ever.
finishing
You get to the
move or
basket,
whatever,
and
yeah.
when you somebody gets them in, you see a lot of players.
But the sky hook is just
Right.
totally different,
Right.
Totally different.
Right.
And as to Phantom's point, I mean, I it's probably true. Just not everybody can do it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, people say, well, geez, I said if everybody could really improve and do everything, you'd have 1,000 Michael Jordans. Well, you don't because everybody can't do it.
Right.
People have
Yeah.
a ceiling. Yeah, there's a ceiling there.
Yeah,
for them.
our ceilings were quite
Yes.
low.
Yeah, some of us had to duck to get under our ceiling. Sure.
We had Kareem, and then Magic kind of learned a little bit of the hook shot from Kareem, and then Vlade had a little bit of a. It was almost
a regular
yeah,
hook,
yeah.
more of a regular hook. And I mean, I always go back to the old days, which the Joe Rucklicks and guys like that,
Cliff Hagan.
and Cliff Hagan.
Yeah.
I mean, they had
Well, yeah, they had the 1940s hook shot shot where you
Yeah.
brought it down from here and just flung it like a catapult.
But you know
Yeah.
they could shoot it from.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete
Sorry, I fouled
Maravich
it.
had a great
Yeah,
hook.
a
Really?
kind of a sweeper,
Maravich
a
could-
sweeping hook.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he could shoot the 15, 18-foot hook on the run, a legit
Wow.
hook
Yeah.
shot.
But when your dad's the coach, it doesn't matter. You can shoot whatever shot you want.
Yeah.
He's not going to bench you, so it's
well,
okay. Yeah.
you would need to make one now and then,
Now and then, but not that
and
many.
he could do that.
Yeah.
How about old
He was
Easy Ed McCauley? I don't even know who that is, but I know that name.
That's
Yeah.
a great name.
He didn't have a
and
hook.
Didn't have a hook shot, but nice name. Well done. Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah,
No.
he was a post player, wasn't he, or was he not?
No, actually,
He was
he had a little bit of a post
like a
game, but he
4?
liked to.
Yeah.
That's the reason they called him Easy Ed. He kind of preferred to be away from the.
Easy Ed kind of like takes
old
it out.
Easy Ed.
He's over in the corner having a smoke. You know,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
Easy Ed over
See,
here.
in my
Yeah.
mind, he's out there throwing in that soft.
In reality, he's over there with a heater.
Well, that's one of my guys, Tommy Heinsohn. He had the 20-foot hooks. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, just the big sweeping hook
Yeah,
shots.
yeah.
Bob Cousy. In those days, guards had those shots back
Yeah.
then. They didn't shoot the jumpers as much, but they'd
The
be
hook. They
set
want to go in
shots
with
and
the big
hooks.
guys. He had the set shot.
So you develop different skills at different times,
Yeah,
of course.
I swear I could remember in the '74 finals, to a point you made, Kareem against Boston, like Game 6 or something, and he shot a hook shot like with the game on the line, like a 18-footer from
exactly.
the baseline.
Exactly.
And it was
You're-
money.
you're going,
like,
what
oh
is he
my goodness.
doing?
Yeah, yeah. For him, that was like, that's the shot we want. So
Yeah,
that's
that was
what
like
had
in
the
that
hook shot.
series. Dave Cowens was the first kind of center I thought that really shot perimeter shots. He'd be at top of the key and make
Got that
them.
left-handed jump shot. Yeah.
and he'd stretch out there. Of course, he's quick enough to where he's tough to guard, and they'd have all kind of like Sabonis now.
Did
where
he do
gets
that
all-
because of the size? He was playing center, right? So
Yeah.
the size of he was always the smallest center.
Always the
so then
smallest
he just
center.
kind of, I'm going to be the first guy to draw centers away from the
and
basket.
at that time, is against the rules of is unofficial rules in basketball, where centers really couldn't step away from the basket and guard anybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh my God, I ain't going out there.
It's a
Oh, I'll never come back. That's
if I go out there, how am I going to find my way back to the basket?
yeah, no.
Just follow the lines on the floor.
because
Yeah.
but like I say, he was kind of the first one really to do
Yeah.
that consistently. Could just you can't. I know you can't guard me out here.
Because you've never been out here.
I'm not sure he was the first. And
Uh-oh.
it's time for old-fashioned 3 A to Z.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Old-fashioned 3,
There we
old-fashioned
go.
3. Whitey, Jerry and Phantom and me, Whitey G, talked about players A to Z. Today we're at the letter L, and I think my guy is maybe the first guy who did that. But you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I usually go first.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to
by
go
all
first,
means.
I mean, if you want to, pull rank and go first, okay. I mean, but mine is pretty simple. Mine is a guy that I think is great as far as this is concerned because it brings him back to light. It's Maurice Lucas. Maurice Lucas, forward in the ABA, went to the NBA, was the second best player on a championship
Overrated.
team. He was the second best player on a title-winning team in 1977, averaged 20 and 11, and at 6'9" and 215 was an enforcer, which you don't really see too much. But he played 14 years, played with various teams after Portland, but four-time All-Star in the NBA, All-Star, all-time team in the ABA. Maurice Lucas, the enforcer to Bill Walton. Luke Walton, named after Maurice Lucas. Okay, that's pretty good. But I mean... He was the kind of guy that, I follow this thing on Twitter called Super 70s Sports or something like that, and they had a picture yesterday of Maurice Lucas squared off against Daryl Dawkins, like, one-on-one, like a real fight, and Daryl Dawkins was about as huge a
I
guy
saw
as
that when
you
it
ever
happened.
seen. And Maurice Lucas at 6'9" and 215, and I don't remember who won the fight, but I'm betting on Maurice Lucas, and that's the kind of guy he was. But he was also a much better player than he's given credit for, four-time
He was a good
All-Star
player.
in a championship, and I know there are people who begrudge him that, but I don't. Maurice Lucas, I love Maurice Lucas, and he's my guy.
One of the Perlman books, and I love Maurice Lucas, one of the Perlman books, though, talks about how Maurice Lucas was with Kareem and Magic and those guys, and he thought that he was, like, going to be the guy again.
Yeah,
and they
but-
were like, shut up. You're not
You're not
on
the
this
guy.
team. You're not
No,
that
no,
guy.
yeah.
And then he didn't stay with them very long.
No, he had a
But
bunch
he
of
was
teams that-
all-time ABA team?
He made the all-time ABA. Well,
Wow.
it was not just five guys. It was it was like
Uh-huh.
the 30th reunion or whatever it was of the ABA.
Oh, so
he was on the
he didn't make
he
the
wasn't
all-
like
he went to the 30th reunion is what you're saying.
No, he was on the team.
Okay,
Yeah.
all
he
right,
probably
yeah.
attended the banquet too, I'm sure, but he was on the team. He wasn't the most improved player at camp like some
Right.
people, but
That's right.
Yeah,
Controversial. I thought
it
deserved
was. I didn't think so.
Yeah.
but so Maurice Lucas, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Maurice Lucas?
Great player in
Yeah,
his day.
tough.
Everything Phantom said is true. And
Yeah.
I always remember, of course, my memory a little different is I think the Kansas City Kings had a chance to pick him up in the expansion draft.
Dispersals or whatever it was.
Dispersal draft,
77, yeah.
and they took Ron Boone, and so
Another fine player.
but not
Maurice
Not
Lucas,
Maurice Lucas.
but good player.
Yeah. I got a guy with the same last name as you, and the reason I brought him up when I did is because I think he may have been the first big
Talk about
who really
overrated.
stretched the floor. He was on the 50th, 50 greatest players, on the 75th greatest players, one of the greatest players in Kings history, Jerry Lucas. Yeah, and Jerry Lucas also, he used to go on TV like on Johnny Carson and things like that because he memorized the freaking phone book.
Yeah, I remember his
The
memory
New York
thing.
City phone book. Yeah. It was like,
Yeah.
and he wrote books about memorizing things, but an amazing player. Here's how good Jerry Lucas was. Came out of college because he was on like the Jerry West, Oscar Robertson Olympic team.
It's 1960. Yeah.
So he came out, and at the time he said, I never really dreamed of being a pro basketball player. The Cincinnati Royals had his rights. George Steinbrenner owned a team in the ABL called the Cleveland Pipers.
Oh yes.
And they were desperate for fans, and Jerry Lucas he was a draw. So George Steinbrenner says, look, if you sign with us, I'll give you a part of the team, and we'll shorten the season for you. How about that?
Well, first of all, he's going a little bit above his purview there. I can get the season shortened for you.
We will shorten the season for you.
And every game will be three quarters? Come
and I
on.
think
What
he
is
went
going
there,
on?
and that league eventually folded. He went
Yes.
to the Royals, and he may be the greatest player who doesn't have his jersey retired by anybody. It's a problem for the Kings. Do you know why? He was number 16, and Page's number's already retired.
I thought his was retired.
I
even with
don't
the
believe
Knicks?
it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't. The Knicks maybe, but I don't believe his jersey was. Anyway, Jerry Lucas to me, just from what I remember, was the first guy, and he was what 6'9",
6'9",
yeah,
6'9",
But he
yeah.
would go out there and draw other
He would
centers.
do the.
That's
He
a
was
good
like
point.
right here, wasn't he? I think he was like this
And he was-
side
yeah,
shooter.
good.
Yeah.
Kind of a off the
He was a side
shoulder.
shooter.
He
yeah.
was good,
Yeah.
right? They used to
Yeah.
call it the
Yeah.
Lucas layup, and he'd
Yeah.
shoot those 20-footers.
Yeah. No, that's a great name. Yeah, I'm surprised. I was thinking that this franchise, the Kings
Had retired?
Had retired his number. They should have, certainly. He's
Yeah.
a Hall of Famer, and
Can you still do it if it was the same numbers? But can you still do? I think they should still do
I don't
it,
think
but
they
it's
can.
a
I
little weird.
think
yeah.
they put his
Well, I
name.
mean, it was the Cincinnati Royals number 19. It wasn't.
Yeah, or 16.
Or 16.
Yeah, put a Royals jersey up there, not a Kings.
I
That's
think they
fine.
should.
There you go.
I'm gonna work on that.
Why don't
Yeah.
you take care of that?
I
Yeah.
will. I'll work
okay.
on that. Yeah, and you're in favor of that in general,
Oh,
right?
I am definitely fair. He's certainly. I'm a big fan of his. Grew up watching him.
Yeah.
With Ohio State, and obviously great college player. And
Yeah.
Nobody knew that John Havlicek was going to be better than him in the pros.
Ohio
We played
State,
with
yeah.
him in college.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they both Hall of
No
Famers.
slide
He
on
was
that.
a
John Havlicek's
champion.
pretty good.
From what I read today, he was a champion. Jerry Lucas was high school, college, Olympics, and pros. And the only other guys I think that meet that criteria, like Quinn Buckner and Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
So that in and of
It's
itself
very-
is
very
kind of
well.
yeah.
It's
But
And
it's-
it's very
group
different,
right
too.
there.
I mean, Quinn was not particularly good in the pros.
right. Right.
Where Magic and Lucas
Yeah.
were key guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So-
very underrated all-time great. And I didn't even know he made the 75th greatest. I had to look it up today. He's on that team?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd for my L, I'll go with a former Sacramento or Kansas City King, Sam Lacey.
Oh,
Ooh,
Sam
his
Lacey.
number is retired.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really an underrated player. I always remember, during my college coaching days and watching Sam and watching those Kings teams and all the fans is always like, oh, we need somebody better than Lacey. He's no Jabbar. He's no this.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
No.
But he was probably the fourth or fifth best center for 10,
Yeah.
12 years.
New Mexico State.
New Mexico State, I believe.
Lobo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, and it was terrific. One of those guys that'd be a double guy every night, played good defense, really underrated. Tremendously underrated player, and came to practice every day, hard worker. Yeah, just always ticked me off that the fans really never appreciated
Mid-70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
like,
played on a lot of
Archibald,
playoff teams.
Walker and Scotty Wedman and those
Scotty
guys.
Webb and those
Yeah.
guys, they went to the Western Finals, I think, a couple of times in his career. And, rather than saying, geez, we're lucky to have a team
Yeah,
this
pretty good, yeah.
It was like, oh, we'll never win anything.
Oh, fans, Jerry, you can never satisfy them.
Well, it makes me mad because
Kings fans, yeah.
but well, I mean, if when you're good, you're good. Yeah, well, you'd rather have Jabbar. But
Sure,
like,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
So
Don't you think that spoke to, and I agree with you completely, but don't you think it spoke to the way people viewed a roster? Back then, it's like your center's supposed to be one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, if
now
he's
I think
not-
we have a greater sense of,
yeah.
hey, this center's helping him. But then it was like, as you say, well, he's not Nate Thurman. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So,
yeah. In my opinion, he was Nate Thurman, but that's another story.
okay.
But but you're right, and people would never give him credit for that. But I think if you look at his stats, he probably was. But you're right. I mean, that was the most important, and through no fault of his own. And they're right. Was not one of the 3 or 4 best. But then, okay, how do you get somebody better? Well, the Kings found out you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For
They're already
played
taken. Yeah, the people better
He
are
played
already
a
taken.
long time, right? He was a
Yeah.
productive player for a long
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's been nobody. The Kings that franchise had not had a better center than him until now. I think Sabonis is probably better, and that's a probably. Different. Probably.
That's pretty good praise. You're saying he's Vlade-esque then?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think Vlade was quite as good as Lacey, but
There
I
you go.
think
That's
Sabonis is better than Vlade. So, there you are.
Very good. That's
Maurice Lucas.
Maurice Lucas.
Jerry Lucas.
Jerry Lucas.
And the great Sam Lacey.
Kind of thought you'd go with John Lucas, but okay, I like Sam
I
Lacey
thought
too.
about John Lucas. I thought about John Lucas.
Lefty, right?
Lefty.
Great tennis player.
Yeah, great
And
tennis player.
Great tennis player. Excellent coach, by the way, developmental coach. And just, I think has just had a remarkable impact on a lot of players as the developmental coach.
I just wanted to point out here, and it looks like more and more people are seeing our pod, which we appreciate, and we're hearing from people here and there, and just even if it's just on the YouTube page, hey, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. It means a lot to us. Thanks. But I wanted to mention this because on Twitter, I posted some clips from our last show, and somebody responded to that and said on Twitter that, hey, I was so lucky because for 20 years I got to work with Jerry and with Coop and with Jeff Petrie, and I think a couple other people, Scotty, yeah. And I responded and said, thanks, because I considered myself lucky to get to hang out with Jerry a couple hours a week. But anyway, it was Pete Youngman. Yeah. And he said, say hi to Jerry. Yeah.
Choke me up
Maybe
right
you need
here.
him now.
Can we get Pete in here? We
Yeah,
can do
Pete,
that.
can you come out? I think I'm
We can
gagging
go
here.
see that. What we do is go like that, and then you cough, and then we put it back on. It's a whole thing that Stones
Pete,
does. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I always say the thing where the Kings certainly were at the best of the league with trainers. I mean, Billy Jones, my early years, a Hall of Fame trainer, just great man in so many ways. And then Pete, he hired Pete, who certainly another one. I mean, he should be a Hall of Famer as well. And the Kings, certainly have not replaced him. And never will, really. I don't know if they figured that out yet, but they may someday.
Yeah. And I think he's with G League Ignite now. Based on his Twitter.
Well,
active on Twitter.
Sharif Abdur-Rahim, as you know, a former King, and other.
My wife
Cowboy.
loves Sharif
Yes,
Abdul-Rahim.
she always has.
One
yeah.
time we sat behind the King's bench, and he was there, and she was there. He is there. And someone said, "Hey, there's this woman behind you." And Sharif turned around and said hi, and she was just ecstatic.
Well, she's a good judge of character because, in my opinion, I mean, Sharif he'd be a tremendous general manager of a franchise. I think of all the guys that have come through other than Danny Ainge, I'd put Sharif right in that category of guys that you knew just couldn't miss if given an opportunity. Of course, he had a great career, outstanding career.
Great player.
But I always used to just love it because he'd always come in and when he's playing days, and then a few years after that when he's working for us, and he'd come in the office and he just wanted to. He was always inquisitive, asking questions. Not. What would you do here? What's the rules on this? I mean, you could just say this guy, and then of course a wonderful wife is a lawyer, very, very, anyway, just top of the line, and of course Pete Youngman, top of the line, and so that's why they're together. I mean, quality draws quality.
Yeah. I know the G-Man. The G-Man on Twitter, Gary Gerald, liked the story you had about, the Jason Kidd story, which was a very interesting story. So,
well, the G-Man would know. He knows a lot of stuff that
Keeps it all
he knows a
under
lot of
wraps.
stuff that he's like me, probably ought to just forget or not bring up. But
Not safe for him to know that stuff. Yeah.
And Fan, as we wrap it up here, we love having things to look forward to, especially this time of year. I'm hearing some things about a Phantom time capsule that may be coming.
Well, I've always had an
Yeah,
idea of,
yeah.
talking about, taking the sports show and taking it back in time and find out how people would react, what they would have said the morning after some of the historic occasions in sports.
Huh.
I obviously don't have an idea how to do this, but I threw that out there. You made fun of it, and Jerry goes, I think that's kind of a good idea.
Yeah.
So obviously that means we'll do something like that. But
All right.
I'm just thinking, I wanted to do, like what if we were doing a show the day after Super Bowl III? And that Jerry says, why don't you bring it back to within the last 40 or 30 years? And so I would do that. But that's what I'm looking at, is kind of taking the sports radio formula and taking it back in
Okay.
time to some of the
Yeah.
great things that happened.
We are available now on Amazon and
Audible, too, yeah.
as well as iTunes, Stones Radio
Networks, yeah.
Stones McCoy Radio Network,
No.
Stones Radio Network.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the
So
main
that-
thing is subscribe if you haven't.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jerry.
And tell your friends. I mean,
If you have any.
if you have any. If you don't, just people down the street. I don't know.
Yeah. But
Go
we'll
to the
be your
store.
friends. Yeah.
Well, that's true. I guess we would.
Yeah.
Why
Thanks
do you
for
go?
watching. Yeah. Thanks for watching the Old Fashioned 3.
Thank you for joining the Old Fashioned 3 on Stones Radio Networks. To stay updated on the show, like and subscribe on YouTube, and all shows are available for download on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at stonesradionetworks.com. Follow the show and the gents on Twitter at OL, Fashioned, and the number 3, at Phantom Radio 60, and at Whitey Gleason. This has been a production of Stones Radio Networks.